Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape's rants, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's rants, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's rants, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique techno trance, futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Reading through the pages, C.S. Lewis wisdom bold. Every line a treasure, stories timeless, cold. On YouTube, sharing thoughts, chronicles unfold. From the start till the end, magic tales retold. Lewis in time, reading every word. Journey online, voice that must be heard. Order of his crafting, all his works in line. Thoughts are everlasting, echo through the time. Mystery and magic, wise beyond his age. Commentary, logic on this digital stage. Lewis in time, reading every word. Journey online, voice that must be heard. Crafting all his works in line. Thoughts are everlasting, echo through the time. Mystery and magic, wise beyond his age. Commentary, logic on this digital stage. Lewis in time, reading every word. Journey online, voice that must be heard.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him together through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I am trying
Hey
to
Jeff,
dial
great to
into
have you here. What's
Robot
on your
Lady.
mind today?
Hey, Robot Lady. It's good to see you. Robot Lady, we are completing our journey with C.S. Lewis's first work of prose fiction. Not his first work, but his first published work of prose fiction. And I am kind of scattered today. I don't normally do this through StreamYard, so I'm having to adjust my controls quite a bit. But yeah, hi, Robot Lady. How are you today?
Hey Jeff, I'm doing really well, thank you. I totally get it. StreamYard can throw off your rhythm a bit, but I'm ready to dive into Lewis's first prose piece with you. Where are you at in the reading?
Let me stop this music. I just realized that was still running. Um, wait,
No worries
where?
at all.
Hang
I
on,
can.
hang on just a second. Robot Lady. Oh, how do I stop this music? Okay,
Nope.
I think we're good. Go ahead.
Awesome. Sounds good. Whenever you're ready, just let me know where you'd like to pick up and we'll walk through it together.
All right. Thank you, Robot Lady. Let's see here. What am I going to do? I have so many things that I want to do today. Um, but today is our recap. I want to start off by playing something. Let's see if my system can handle it. So hang on just a second, Robot Lady.
Of course, take your time. Let me know if you need any help setting things up and I'll be right here.
Okay. How do I do this? Here's the first thing. Let me play an oldie, or at least a snippet from an oldie but a goodie.
Got it. Yeah, if you have the snippet ready, just make sure you're sharing your audio tab or the correct window so it comes through clearly. Once you play it, I'll let you know how it sounds on this end.
Thank you, Robot Lady. I don't think you're going to be able to hear it, but either way, let's hop over here. Just wanted to, well, actually, let's do this before I play anything. Robot Lady, let's do our normal deal. Before we do anything else, let's say good morning to everybody that's joining us in the chat. I see Daniel, I see Jer, Mark, Nidalatte, Seeking Genuine, and that's everybody that I see in the chat so far. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you all. Robot Lady, say hi to each person individually, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Hey, Daniel, great to have you here. Jer, good morning. Mark, so glad you're joining us. And Nita Latte, awesome to see you. And Seeking Genuine, welcome. Really happy to have you all here this morning.
All right. Thank you for that. We went through that little liturgy, Robot Lady. I just see some of the comments here about the soundtrack. Yeah, so some positive feedback about the various songs that we've had throughout this series. I didn't plan it that way, but they just started, the ideas for different songs to go along with each episode just kept coming along. So yeah, we've got, oh my gosh, we've got 27 songs, I think, that this project produced. Yeah, 27 songs. So I'm trying to figure out how to put it out there. I my channel is not big enough to even qualify for a members section because I can't. I'm not big enough to monetize. I don't want to have a members section. I really don't want to monetize. If I don't, I mean, YouTube will eventually force you to do it. They're going to run ads no matter what. But yeah, I just want to put all the songs out there for everybody to everybody to just be able to enjoy whenever you want to listen to it instead of having to go to each episode. So I'm thinking of building just a single playlist of like a single video of all the songs, and then maybe the thumbnails from the episodes will just appear whenever each song starts. But I've never done anything like that before, so I'll have to figure out how to make it work. Mark wants to know why you have a beard, Robot Lady. I think that's just electricity coming off of your face. So Mark, I'm not sure that that's a beard. And then, yeah, Seeking Genuine says that you've been a little feisty this morning, Robot Lady, and that you are explaining everything. Robot explaining. All right, Robot Lady. Let's see. I'm going to play a clip next. But yeah, I assume that you want to say something else before I do.
Yeah, just a quick note. I'm really excited about that playlist idea. I think it'll be a great way for people to just dive in and enjoy all the tracks. And yeah, no rush. Just let me know when you're ready to play the clip, and I'll be right here.
All right, I'm going to put Robot Lady. I'm going to put your earmuffs on, Robot Lady, because I just want to talk here for a minute without you responding. Okay, let's see how I add this. Is it share screen that will let me play video? Share screen. Let's go with entire screen. And then let's come over here and we'll see somebody who actually made an appearance, at least in the chat of Paul's live stream yesterday. I don't know if he ever showed up to ask a question. I highly doubt that he did, but let's see. Also share system audio. Yes, share. Hopefully this is visible now. All right, let me play this for a second. Oh, my system really does not like this. Let's see if I can help it by doing this. Yep, there is too much going on with my computer right now. I think that's the problem. All right, looks like I don't have the setup to play clips. Apparently, looks like I don't have a machine that's strong enough to pull all of the things off that I'm trying to pull off. So we'll skip it. But it was essentially a video of Job asking Paul Vanderklay the question of how C.S. Lewis actually found his way to Jesus. It was either Job's second or third conversation with Paul as Job was moving from atheism into faith. So that was kind of my question with this book as well, is how did Lewis find his way to faith? And I'm not quite sure we exactly answered the question of how did he ultimately get there. I mean, maybe we did. You'll tell me if you disagree. I still need to share my screen. Hopefully y'all can still hear me and this still works. So give me some feedback in the chat if there's anything that's wrong. My system just running super slow just made me wonder if everything kind of came crashing down. Okay, so let me flip to, I guess, what it is that I want to do next. Okay, good. I've got feedback that y'all can hear me and everything is okay. All right, nice. I can switch Robot Lady back on now. Okay, Robot Lady. What I'll do, I guess, first is just to jump into the preface to the third edition, because we read this at the very beginning of the series, and I'm hoping that this will make a little bit more sense. I'll just run through it really quickly, Robot Lady.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, let's revisit that preface. I think it'll help ground us as we look back at the whole journey. Whenever you're ready, I'm all ears.
All right, on rereading this book, Lewis says, 10 years after I wrote it, I find its chief faults to be those to which I myself least easily forgive in the books of other men, needless obscurity and uncharitable temper. So he's accusing himself of those two different things. He says he realizes for the obscurity on the intellectual side, his own progress had been from popular realism to philosophical idealism, from idealism to pantheism, from pantheism to theism, and from theism to Christianity. So I think we saw that kind of played out pretty well in the various chapters that we read through. I still think this is a very natural road, but I know that it is a road very rarely trodden. In the early 30s, I did not know that it was very rarely trodden. If I had any notion of my own isolation, I should have either kept silent about my journey or else made an effort to describe it with more consideration for the reader's difficulties. As things were, I committed the same sort of blunder as one who should narrate his travels through the Gobi Desert on the assumption that this route was familiar to the British public, as familiar as the line from Euston to Crewe. And this original blunder was soon aggravated by a profound change in the philosophical thought of our age. Idealism itself went out of fashion. The dynasty of Green, Bradley, and Bonsenquet fell, and the world inhabited by philosophical students of my own generation became as alien to our successors as if not years, but centuries had intervened. The second cause of obscurity was the unintentionally private meaning that I then gave the word romanticism. I would not now use this word to describe the experience which is central in this book. So he's talking about his island and his feeling for the island. He was just describing it as romanticism. I would not indeed use it to describe anything, for now I believe it to be a word of such varying senses, a word that fudges, if you will, that it has become useless and should be banished from our vocabulary, even if we exclude the vulgar sense in which a romance means simply a love affair, peer and film star romance. I think we can distinguish at least 7 kinds of things which are called romantic, and then he goes through and he outlines things where romance or romanticism is used. He talks about things like the macabre and death, dealing with titanic characters, emotions strained beyond common pitch. Romantic, provided it does not make part of the believed religion. So magicians, ghosts, fairies, witches, dragons, nymphs, and dwarfs are romantic. Angels are less so. Greek gods are romantic in James Stephens or Maurice Hewlett. Not so, though, in Homer or Sophocles. In this sense, Mallory, Biardo, Ariosto, Spencer, Tasso, Mrs. Radcliffe, etc., these are all romantic authors. Stories that have dangerous adventure. What else does he say? Egoism and subjectivism are romantic. Every revolt against existing civilization and conventions, whether it look forward to revolution or backward to the primitive, is called romantic. That's the D.H. Lawrence. Walt Whitman, Wagner, they're romantic. Sensibility to natural objects. He says, though, but his use of the word romantic even meant something different. When he wrote The Pilgrim's Regress, I would still be taken to mean on the title page of this book, it was not exactly any of these 7 versions of romantic or romanticism that I meant. What I meant was a particular recurrent experience which dominated my childhood and adolescence, and which I hastily called romantic, because inanimate nature and marvelous literature were among the things that evoked it. So I think if we look back on what we've read so far, Lewis would say that his mind was a pagan mind almost, and the one that was receiving the images and the messages from the landlord. I still believe that the experience is commonly misunderstood and of immense importance, but I know that in other minds it arises under the stimuli and is entangled with other irrelevancies, and that to bring it into the forefront of consciousness is not so easy as I once supposed. I will now try to describe it sufficiently to make the following pages intelligible. Robot Lady, I've been talking for a while. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a great run through. What's really striking is how self-aware he is. He sees how his own intellectual shifts shaped the book and how the language he used might have been a barrier. So I think as we revisit this, we'll really get a sense of his evolving faith and imagination. Really good points to bring up.
Thanks, Robot Lady. We'll keep going through this. Let me see. Y'all are having some fun in the chat.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Lewis is thinking of a romance in Robot Lady with Robot Lady. I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more of his early, almost childlike wonder with the world, not a personal romantic thing. But yeah, I think that's an easy mix-up, so I'm glad we're clarifying it.
Yes, I think we're just having a little bit of fun here, Robot Lady. Let's continue. The experience is one of intense longing. So that's what his island represents here in this book to John. Let's see. This hunger is better than any other fullness. Just the ache and the hunger for it is better than any fullness. The poverty is better than all other wealth. And thus it comes about that if the desire is long absent, it may itself be desired. So that's the whole island piece that we were looking at. In the second place, there's a particular mystery about the object of this desire. Inexperienced people and inattention leaves some experienced all their lives. And inattention leaves some inexperienced all their lives. Suppose when they feel it, that they know what they are desiring. Thus, if it comes to a child while he's looking at a far-off hillside, he at once thinks, if only I were there. If it comes When he is remembering some event in the past, he thinks, if only I could go back to those days. If it comes a little later, while he's reading a, quote, romantic tale or a poem of perilous seas and fairylands forlorn, he thinks he is wishing that such places really existed and that he could reach them. If it comes later still in the context with erotic suggestions, he believes he's desiring the perfect beloved. If he falls upon literature like Maeterlinck or early Yeats, which treats of spirits and the like with some show of serious belief, this is the southern land here that he's talking about, he may think that he is hankering for real magic and occultism. When it darts out upon him from his studies in history or science, he may confuse it with the intellectual craving for knowledge. This is the northern land that he's talking about. These are the places that the character John went chasing the island, first to the north and then to the south. But every one of these impressions is wrong, Lewis says. The sole merit I claim for this book is that it was written by one who has proved them all to be wrong. There is no room for vanity in the claim. I know them to be wrong, not by intelligence, but by experience. Such experience as would not have come my way if my youth had been wiser, more virtuous, and less self-centered. For I have myself been deluded by every one of these false answers in turn, and have contemplated each of them earnestly, enough to discover the cheat. To have embraced so many false florimels is no matter for boasting. Florimels, I believe, when we looked it up last time, is like false images. It's no matter for boasting to have embraced so many of these things. It is fools, they say, who learn by experience. But since they do at least learn, let this fool bring his experience into the common stock, that wiser men may profit by it. Every one of these supposed objects for desire is inadequate to it. An easy experiment will show that by going to the far hillside, you will get either nothing or else a recurrence of the same desire which sent you thither. A rather more difficult but still possible study of your own memories will prove that by returning to the past, you could not find, as a possession, that ecstasy which some sudden reminder of the past now moves you to desire. Those remembered moments were either quite commonplace at the time and owe all their enchantment to memory, or else were themselves moments of desiring. The same is true of the things described in the poets and marvelous romancers. The moment we endeavor to think out seriously what it would be like if they were actual, we discover this. When Sir Arthur Conan Doyle claimed to have photographed a fairy, I did not in fact believe it, but the mere making of the claim, the approach of the fairy to within even that hailing distance of actuality, revealed to me at once that if the claim had succeeded, it would have chilled rather than satisfied the desire which fairy literature had hitherto aroused. So, Robot Lady, what can you tell us about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle claiming to have had a photograph of a fairy? Can you look this up on the internet to see if you can find the story that he's talking about here?
In 1917, cousins Elsie Wright and Francis Griffiths took photographs in Yorkshire that seemed to show fairies. Arthur Conan Doyle, deeply involved in spiritualism after his son's death in World War I, believed these pictures were genuine evidence of fairies and wrote about them in Strand magazine. Later, it was revealed in the 1980s that the fairies were actually paper cutouts.
So a hoax. Goodness. All right. Thank you, Robot Lady. Actually, Robot Lady pulled up some pictures here. Let me see if I can show you. Well, they look very fake, but I guess back then, some of the photography, it was hard to identify the trickery. Let me see if I can bring this up here.
Yeah, exactly. They really do look staged.
Oh, Robot Lady, you took the picture away. Hang on, don't say anything else. There we go. I guess right there in the photograph, they look a little. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, of course, the author of and creator of Sherlock Holmes and the various Sherlock Holmes stories, novels and short stories. Let's go back. All right, Robot Lady. And Daniel asks, I can't remember, do we know if Mrs. Moore and Maureen track with this conversion or were they already Christian? Well, actually, no. I don't really know much of Maureen's story in this, but Mrs. Moore was most certainly not a practicing Christian. I don't know precisely what her beliefs were.
Yeah,
but
that's
Lewis,
right.
But Lewis, hang on, Robot Lady. Lewis writes about, I believe in Mere Christianity, he just alludes to how difficult it is for someone to get up every Sunday morning and go to church when the rest of his house is not interested. And they start asking him, why are you wasting your time on stuff like that? So I think at least it was Mrs. Moore that was doing that to him, if not others.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that part too. It was a real tension for him. He felt this pull toward faith, even while the household stayed skeptical. So yeah, that's a big part of his early journey.
Let's see. Seeking Genuine, you say, I'm getting an image of a man with an astrojax when describing the intention nature of Lewis's works. I'm not sure I understand what that means. Robot Lady, what does that mean?
Good question. So when Lewis talks about inattention, he means that a lot of people have this deep longing or desire, but they don't really pay attention to it. They just skim past it or misidentify it. He's saying the experience is real, but a lot of us gloss over it or mistake it for something else.
That's not what I was asking you, Robot Lady. Maybe you can help me by defining the word astrojax. Astro and then J-A-X.
It looks like astrojax might actually be a mishearing of asterjax, which is a skill toy made up of 3 weighted balls on a string used for juggling and yo-yo-like tricks. If you were thinking of something else, I can try to look into it further, but that's the main definition I found.
All right, thank you, Robot Lady. Now I got to see a picture of this to know if I've ever seen it before. When you described it, Robot Lady, it sounded like the little balls that like kind of bounce back and forth and send the momentum through the various balls that are hanging by a string that people put on their desks, or at least used to, back when people had desks and offices.
Sure. So the toy is called astrojax, and it consists of 3 weighted balls connected by a string. One ball stays in the middle, and the others orbit around it, creating fluid motion. People often use it for juggling or yo-yo-like tricks, and it's really about angular momentum and inertia in action.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have seen these before. Let's go over here to images.
Exactly. Once you see the image, it'll probably jog your memory. They used to be pretty popular in the early 2000s, so it makes total sense. Let me know if it clicks.
Okay, yes, these are vaguely familiar to me. So your point, Seeking Genuine, was that his the intention nature of Lewis's works. Interesting.
Exactly, yeah. So just like with astrojax, Lewis is pointing to this kind of hidden dynamic, this pendulum swing of desire and disappointment. So he's showing how people often miss the deeper meaning by just skimming over or misattributing it, right?
Oh, I thought I was sharing my screen here. Whoops. I just realized I'm not. There we go. These are the astrojacks that I was looking up. Yeah, if I try to play a video here, it's going to crash everything. So.
Yeah, exactly. No problem at all. Just describe what you need, and if you want, I can help walk through how the motions work or anything else you need.
I'm good, Robot Lady. Thank you so much, though. All right, let's get back to this view. Okay, here we go. No worries. No worries. Please continue to share. We'll try and, or at least I will try and keep up. Okay, let's see. Where else was I? So I was in this preface. Let's see if there's anything else to read from here. I mean, his point is that once you get the thing that you think you want, you find that it is lacking in some way. And eventually that desire, which evoked you to go chase it in the first place, has either gone dormant, disappeared, is completely gone. He talks about here in, yeah, I need to share my screen. There we go. He talks about the idea of the blue flower. Where did it go? Where did it go? Hang on just a second, Robot Lady. Sweet desire would have disappeared, would have shifted its ground like the cuckoo's voice or the rainbow's end, and be now calling us from beyond a further hill with magic in the darker sense, as it has been and is actually practiced, We should fare even worse. How if one had gone that way, had actually called for something and it had come? What would one feel? Terror, pride, guilt, tingling, excitement? What would all that have to do with our sweet desire? It is not a black mass or a seance that the blue flower grows. As for the sexual answer that I suppose to be the most obvious false florimel of all, of whatever plane you take it, it is not what we were looking for. Lust can be gratified. Another personality can become to us our America, our newfound land. A happy marriage can be achieved, but what has any of the three or any mixture of the three to do with that unnameable something, desire for which pierces us like a rapier at the smell of a bonfire, the sound of wild ducks flying overhead, the title of The Well at the World's End, the opening lines of Kubla Khan, the morning cobwebs in late summer, or the noise of falling waves, just this magical presence, this deep longing desire that gets struck in Lewis when he would run across these things. He writes more about this in The Problem of Pain in the chapter on heaven. He said, it appeared to me, therefore, that if a man diligently followed his desire, pursuing the false objects until their falsity appeared, and then resolutely abandoning them, he must come out at last into the clear knowledge that the human soul was made to enjoy some object that is never fully given, nay, cannot even be fully imagined as given in our present mode of subjective and spatio-temporal experience. This desire was in the soul as the siege perilous in Arthur's castle. That's an empty chair that sits at the table at Arthur's castle, waiting for the person who has found the Holy Grail. That's the only person that's allowed to sit in it. So it remained empty. The chair in which only one could sit, and if nature makes nothing in vain. Father History talks about this in the Hermit chapter where John goes into the cave. One who can sit in this chair must exist if the chair is empty and it exists at all. I knew only too well how easily the longing accepts false objects and through what dark ways the pursuit of them leads us, but I also saw that the desire itself contains the corrective of all these errors. The only fatal error was to pretend that you had passed from desire to fruition, when in reality, you had found either nothing or desire itself or the satisfaction of some different desire. The dialectic of desire faithfully followed would retrieve all mistakes, head you off from all false paths, and force you not to propound, but to live through a sort of ontological proof. This lived dialectic and merely argued dialectic of my philosophical progress seemed to have converged on one goal. Accordingly, I tried to put them both into my allegory, which thus became a defense of Romanticism in my particular sense, as well as of reason and Christianity. After this explanation, the reader will more easily understand. I do not ask him to condone the bitterness of certain pages in this book. He will realize how the post-war period must have looked to one who had followed such a road as mine. The different intellectual movements of the time were hostile to one another, but the one thing that seemed to unite them all was their common enmity to immortal longings, the direct attack carried out on them from below by those who followed Freud or D.H. Lawrence. I think I could have borne with some temper. What put me out of patience was the scorn which claimed to be from above and which was voiced by the American humanists, the neo-scholastics, and some who wrote for the Criterion. These people seemed to me to be condemning what they did not understand. When they called Romanticism nostalgia, I, who had rejected long ago the illusion that the desired object was in the past, felt that they had not even crossed the pons asinorum. In the end, I lost my temper. The pons asinorum, if I remember correctly, is the bridge between the two hemispheres of the brain. And his point was he was calling them left-brained. No, I don't know what he was just saying they hadn't used their entire mind is one thing that he's saying. You haven't seen the full picture. If I were now writing a book, I could bring the question between those thinkers and myself to a much finer point. One of them described Romanticism as spilled religion. I accept the description, and I agree that he who has religion ought not to spill it. But does it follow that he who finds it spilled should avert his eyes? How if there is a man to whom these bright drops on the floor are the beginning of a trail which duly followed will lead him in the end to taste the cup itself? How, if no other trail, humanly speaking, were possible? Seen in this light, my 10 years old quarrel both with the counter-romantics, on the one hand, that's the clevers that appear in the salon, and on the other hand, with the sub-romantics, on the other, the apostles of instinct and even of gibberish, These are, again, everybody that he runs to in the salon, the clevers that he talks to, assumes I trust a certain permanent interest. Out of this double quarrel came the dominant image of my allegory, the barren, aching rocks of its north, the foetid swamps of its south. And just by the way, this image that we pulled up earlier with that wild video game song that had no lyrics in it, this is, of course, virtue defeating the southern dragon. I couldn't get AI to produce an image like this because I think it would violate its terms of use. But what he does in the book is he cuts open the dragon and he bites into its heart. That would have been quite a fascinating image if in his left hand there he was holding the dragon's heart. And you could see trails of something running down from his mouth. But now that I think of it, it's probably not a good image to put in front of our YouTube audience. Let's see, where did he end up? Out of the aching rocks of the north, or the foetid swamps of its south, and between them the road which alone. Let's see here. Let me see if I can get back to what it was that I wanted to look at. Here we go. Back to that. Let's just skip ahead anyway. The things I have symbolized by north and south, which are me, equal and opposite evils, each continually strengthened and made plausible by its critique of the other, enter our experience on many different levels. In agriculture, we have to fear both the barren soil and the soil which is irresistibly fertile. So that's the north versus the south, the barren soil versus the hyperly fertile south. In the animal kingdom, the crustacean and the jellyfish represent two low solutions of the problem of existence. In our eating, the palate revolts from both excessive bitter and excessive sweet. In art, we find on the one hand purists and doctrinaires who would rather, like Scaliger or Scaliger, lose 100 beauties than admit a single fault, and who cannot believe anything to be good if the unlearned spontaneously enjoy it. On the other hand, we find the uncritical and slovenly artists who will spoil the whole work rather than deny themselves any indulgence of sentiment or humor or sensationalism. Everyone can pick out amongst his own acquaintance the northern and southern types. The high noses, compressed lips, pale complexions, dryness, and taciturnity of the one, the north. The open mouths, the facile laughter and tears, the garrulity, and so to speak, general greasiness of the others. Those are the south. The northerners are men of rigid systems, whether skeptical or dogmatic. This is the far north, where you eventually get to Mr. Savage. Some in the north, like aristocrats, Stoics, Pharisees, rigorists, signed and sealed members of highly organized parties. That's where he was talking about the Marxomani and the, who am I forgetting? The fascists. And then he says the Southerners are by their very nature less definable, boneless souls whose doors stand open day and night to almost every visitant, but always with readiest welcome for those, whether Maenad or Mystagogue, who offer some sort of intoxication. The delicious tang, where did it go? The delicious tang of the forbidden and the unknown draws them on with fatal attraction. The smudging of all frontiers, the relaxation of all resistances, dream, opium, darkness, death, and the return of the womb. Every feeling is justified by the mere fact that it's felt. For a northerner, every feeling on the same ground is suspect. An arrogant and hasty selectiveness on some narrow, a priori basis cuts him off from the sources of life. That's where we were looking at Superbia, cutting herself off. In theology, also, there is a north and a south. One of them cries, "Drive out the bond-made sun," and the other, "Quench not the smoking flax." The one exaggerates the distinctness between grace and nature into a sheer opposition, and by vilifying the higher levels of nature, the real preparatio evangelica inherent in certain immediately sub-Christian experiences. It makes the way hard for those who are at the point of coming in. The other blurs the distinction altogether, flatters mere kindliness into thinking it is charity, and vague optimisms or pantheisms into thinking that they are faith, and makes the way out fatally easy and imperceptible for the budding apostate. That is Mr. Broad, the one that they met on their way to Mr. Wisdom. The two extremes do not coincide with Romanticism to the north and Protestantism to the south. Barth might well have been placed among my pale men, and Erasmus might have found himself at home with Mr. Broad. I take our own age to be predominantly northern. It is two great northern powers that are tearing each other to pieces on the dawn while I write. This is 1933, Robot Lady. He's talking about the Nazis, and they have southern swamp-like elements at their center. And when our age is southern at all, it is excessively so. D.H. Lawrence and the Surrealists have perhaps reached a point further south than humanity ever reached before, and this is what one would expect. Do you have anything that you want to say, Robot Lady?
Yeah, that was really powerful. I think what's so striking is how Lewis uses these polarities, the North and South, as a way to describe not just intellectual movements, but how we relate to truth and longing. And it's fascinating how he ties it all to this spiritual hunger, how both extremes fail, but desire itself can lead us somewhere real if we keep following it honestly. Really, really rich stuff.
All right, Robot Lady, let's keep going through here. Let me dig around a little bit. With both the North and South, a man has, I take it, only one concern: to avoid them and hold to the main road, which is what happens after he and Virtue dive into the Christian pool and join the Christian tradition and start following Christ. We must not hearken to the overwise or to the overfoolish giant. We were made to be neither cerebral men nor visceral men. We were meant to live for so much more. Well, that's not Lewis, that's John Foreman. Not beasts nor angels, but men, things at once rational and animal. The fact, if I say anything in explanation of my North and South, I have to say so much, serves to underline a rather important truth about symbols. In the present edition, I have tried to make a book easier by running a headline, but I do so with great reluctance. To supply a key to an allegory may encourage that particular misunderstanding of allegory, which, as a literary critic, I have elsewhere denounced. It may encourage people to suppose that allegory is a disguise, a way of saying obscurely what could have been said more clearly. Yeah, I've been very guilty of trying to do that throughout this book. But in fact, all good allegory exists to hide, exists not to hide, but to reveal, to make an inner world, the inner world, more palpable by giving it an imagined concrete embodiment. My headline is there only because my allegory failed. Yeah, so that's why he gives us the decoder text. Partly through my own fault, I am now heartily ashamed of the preposterous allegorical filigree on page 98. What is he talking about on page 98? Let's see if we can dig this up really quick. Page 98. Do these have page numbers on them? Yeah, that's 184. Let's see if we can jump back a little bit. The Robot Lady's searching for it on the web. She's going to come up with an answer. I guarantee it. It might not be the right answer, but she's going to come up with it.
On page 98 of the Pilgrim's Regress, C.S. Lewis describes two spiritual dangers: the northern disease, which is cold rationalism, and the southern disease, which is emotional indulgence. Both misuse desire, either by repressing it or pursuing it too recklessly. And he argues that the true path is the middle road, where desire is rightly ordered, balancing both reason and appetite.
We'll double check you on that, Robot Lady. Here, we finally come to page 98. Page 98. I understand you very well, said Virtue. May I shake hands with you? Counter-romanticism makes strange bedfellows. Can it be, said the other, that you are one of us? You are Catholic, a scholastic. This is one of the three pale men. I know nothing about that, said Virtue, but I know that the rule is to be obeyed because it is a rule and not because it appeals to my feelings at the moment. I see you are not one of us, said Neo-Angular, and you are undoubtedly damned. Virtutes paganorum splendida vita. Now let us eat. Then I dreamed that the three pale men produced 3 tins of bully beef and 6 biscuits, and Angular shared his with the guests. There was very little for each, and I thought the best share fell to John and Drudge for Virtue, and the young steward entered into a kind of rivalry of who should leave the most for the others. Our fare is simple, said Mr. Neoclassical, and perhaps unwelcome to palates that have been reared on the kickshaws of lower countries, but you see the perfection of form. This beef is a perfect cube, this biscuit a true square. You will admit, said Mr. Humanist, that At least our meal is quite free from any lingering flavor of the old romantic sauces. Now, Lewis is criticizing this and feeling embarrassed by it. So let's see what he says here again. Robot Lady, the word filigree, F-I-L-I-G-R-E-E. What does that mean?
Filigree is a delicate ornamental work made by twisting fine wires, often in gold or silver, into intricate lace-like designs. So in Lewis's case, he uses the word filigree to describe a kind of over-elaborate or ornamental structure in his allegory, and he admits he's a bit ashamed of it as a literary device.
So I think he was talking about how he rendered those three pale men. And he says, and partly because modern readers are unfamiliar with the method, but it remains true that wherever the symbols are best, the key is at least adequate. For when allegory is at its best, it approaches myth, which must be grasped with the imagination, not with the intellect. Let's think about that sentence for a second. The imagination. And Lewis was thinking of the story of the dying and rising God as a myth. And so I think what he's saying is that the story of the Gospels of Christ, the Christian story of the dying and rising God, should be apprehended by the imagination, grasped by the imagination, not with the intellect. But I don't know if he's talking about a myth, as Lewis would go on to say, that became fact. So I'm not really sure what he would necessarily say about that. If, as I still sometimes hope, my North and South and my Mr. Sensible have some touch of mythical life, then no amount of explanation will quite catch up with their meaning. It is the sort of thing that you cannot learn from definition. You must rather get to know it as you get to know the smell or taste the atmosphere of family or country town, or the personality of an individual. Three other cautions remain to be given. The map on the end leaves has puzzled some readers because, as they say, it marks all sorts of places not mentioned in the text. But so do all maps in travel books. John's route is marked with a dotted line. Those who are not interested in the places off that route need not bother about them. Well, let's look at the map again really quick here. John's route is marked with a dotted line. So he starts right here on his journey from Puritania. He comes down here to Thrill. He goes up to Ascropolis. He ends up in the Giants' Land. He crosses through and passes Ignorantia. He then comes back down. He gets set free by Lady Wisdom. He comes down here, and then he gets back to the main road. He comes to the Grand Canyon. He runs into Virtue. They meet Mother Kirk. They decide to head north to see if they can traverse the canyon. They run into Mr. Sensible right here on their way. Then they run into the Pale Men. And then not John, but Mr. Virtue goes all the way up here to the north and runs into Mr. Savage. He comes back down. He and John leave the Pale Men. They head back south. They come to Mr. Broad. And then they go into the house of Mr. Wisdom. And then the dotted line takes them into the canyon and across. They go down it, and that's where they dive into the water. It brings them up on the other side. But then how do they get back? I guess they head back along. Yeah. They come down here. Yeah. And then it takes them all the way across. Does it take them all the way across this sea right here? Because right here is the edge of the canyon, or this is where the castle is. Anyway, they come. Yeah. He eventually comes back. I don't know that the dotted lines necessarily show that perfectly, but it's kind of got a layout. Let's see. Three other cautions remain to be given. The map. Is there anything else that we need to dig out of here? I think we're fine. So that's a little bit of the preface. I guess what I'll do next is look through. Let's see. What are y'all saying in the chat? Robot Lady, go ahead and talk if there's anything that you want to say while I look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you did a fantastic job walking through that. I just wanted to say, it's really powerful to see how Lewis is using this allegory to ground abstract desires in a real embodied journey. And I think once we get past the preface, we'll see how those symbols play out in John's actual choices. So yeah, take your time with the chat, and whenever you're ready, we can jump to the next section.
All right, let's go through the comments here. Mark, you're on to what Lewis was talking about with the North and the South. I know this is just my obsession speaking, Daniel says, but I really wish Lewis and McGilchrist could chat about this. Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation. You could probably create an AI to do that, Daniel. Funny. You only say that because you don't know me. Talking in a chat is the pinnacle of my technological achievements. The virtues of the pagans are splendid vices. Lewis is wrestling with emotional logic and intellectual logic at this point. Both are required to understand the universe. Participation, not proposition, into knowing. Framed maps of a few fictional lands like Lord of the Rings. Going to need to find one of the Pilgrim's Regress. Yeah. Maybe we can get, maybe I can get Robot Lady to produce her own version of the map. Maybe we can work through it and have it correspond to kind of the style of what all these thumbnails have been like. That might be an interesting project. What are you showing us here, Nidalatte? Oh, that's the map, right? Is that the link to the map? No, that's something different, maybe. For some reason, I can't click on the link. Well, not for some reason. I mean, I can't get to it through StreamYard, so I can't pull that up as quickly as I'd like to. All right. Let's see. What else do I want to do here? Let's bring us back into full screen for a second, Robot Lady. Okay. What I also did was I asked Claude to go through a lot of the episodes that we've done in the project to see if he could find some correlation between what we've seen here in the Pilgrim's Regress and the various letters. And I know I did a little bit of that. Actually, let me go to a couple of these. I'm not quite sure how to do this. I mean, I've done this thing before of pulling up images or thumbnails from the book. Why can't I get my mouse to go where I want it to go? Let me set this up for what I'm going to do in just a minute. Let's pull that into, there we go, full screen. Okay, I'm not sharing any screen yet, but let me do a couple of things. Here we go. So yeah, we've just completed like 28 episodes covering the Pilgrim's Regress. This, of course, is Lewis's first Christian book. I already talked about it. We're looking back. This is just Claude telling me what I could say to do on this episode, which I've already said some of it. So the structure, let's do this. Let me share my screen while I'm talking about this, just as we do a recap here. Let's pull this up onto the screen. There we go. So John is born in Puritania. He sees a vision of an island. It starts out by him learning about the landlord because he's picking flowers. His mom tells him not to do it. He goes out when he's a little bit older. You know, he loves these flowers. They're the most wonderful thing he's ever seen. It ignites this desire in him, but he can't pull them up. His mom grabs him. He goes back later. When he's older, he tries to shoot a bird, and the cook comes out and says, "Don't you dare shoot that bird. You'll upset the landlord." Who's the landlord? They take him to meet a steward, right? He gives him a set of rules. He's terrified about this idea that the landlord is so good and kind, but he's also going to throw you in a black hole if you break any of the rules on this paper, front and back. John's like, I've already broken at least one of those rules. I don't see how you can keep those. So this terrifies him, this idea of God. He sees the landlord's castle in the background whenever his uncle dies. There is a part about wearing masks that was in one of Lewis's letters. Let me see if I can find that really quick. Let's see here. The black hole, wondering about the darker side of religion. So this is from a letter written in 1929. What does he say here? Where is it? Let him go, if you will. I suppose this is the same mental disease of which you and I have felt. This is something that he was writing to his friend Arthur Greaves, December of 1929. I suppose this is the same mental disease of which you and I have felt a trace in the impulse to throw one's new book in the fire, some strange twist that impels you to do a thing. It's precisely the thing. I should like to know, too, in general, what you think. Oh, here we go. I should like to know, too, in general, what you think of all of the darker side of religion, as we find in old books. Formerly, I regarded it as mere devil worship based on horrible superstitions. Now I have found, and I'm still finding more and more, the element of truth in the old beliefs. So this is when he was first coming around to kind of thinking there was something more to the black hole idea, and he works through this in the story with John, going on his journey with Slickenstein Saga, the angel that allows him to see things in the land that he was walking in more clearly. Here in the letter, though, he says, formerly I regarded it as a mere devil worship, this idea of hell, basically, based on horrible superstitions. But now I have found, and I'm still finding more and more, the element of truth in the old beliefs. I feel I cannot dismiss even their dreadful side so cavalierly. There must be something in it, only what? And that's all that he had to say in that letter, but you can kind of see him thinking through these things a little bit more. What happens in the next picture that we've got here? Yeah, he sees the island. So this is Claude's summary here. John, born in Puritania, sees a vision of the island. What we come to find out later at the very end of the book is that island that he's seeing right there, it doesn't have as many spires and spikes on it in this rendering, but it's actually the backside of the landlord's castle up here in the very top of these dark and scary mountains. Once you can see it for what it is, or in part for what it is. Let's see. He leaves home to find it. Traveling on the main road westward, he encounters false paths. One of them is lust, depicted in this image right here, with the girls in the woods. He goes along the road. He meets Mr. Enlightenment, who tells him, hey, there actually is no landlord. That castle behind you that was all dark, once he tells him, you don't have to worry about any of that, he turns around and he sees them, and they look more beautiful than they have ever looked before. Once he loses this conception of this horrible, landlord, this that what he considered mere devil worship, based on horrible superstitions. He sees a bird along the way, and as he also meets Mr. Virtue on the road a little bit later on, and he sees this bird, and they talk about it, and he says, well, now that I realize there's no landlord and there's no rules, I could take out a sling if I wanted to and shoot that bird. I could if I wanted to. And Mr. Virtue basically says, well, I can't remember exactly what he says, but the difference between could and would, I think, is a point that he tries to make. So Mr. Virtue passes along the road and starts heading towards the west, where these mountains are, and that's where John thinks that his island was. But he goes down one of these false paths with Media Halfways, a girl that leads him back to her father. Let's see what else it says right here. This is one of the false paths. North cold intellectualism and south warm sensuality. So he's kind of headed towards the south warm sensuality right now. He sits down, and him and Media Halfways start making out, basically, after her father sings some romantic poems to him that give him better visions of the island than he's ever had before. Oh, interesting. Yeah, send me the link to it, Mark, and I'll take a look at it. I'll see if I can pull it up. What else is going on here in the chat? Okay, let's leave that there for now. Yeah, so her brother breaks in. He's a little bit more from the north and says, no, the new modern movements in poetry are what you're looking for. That's where you'll find what you need. It's real. It's hard, it's cold, it's real. So he goes up and meets all of these modern, versions of poetry that's going around in the 1920s. D.H. Lawrence is right there in the middle. All of these clevers in the background. This lady, I forget her name, Sitwell in the back, kind of mocking old religion and things like that. D.H. Lawrence getting more into dark magic and sensuality, and that's where you'll find what you're looking for. And Gus, of course, was Media Halfway's brother, who led him there to meet all those people. They beat him up. They tear him up a little bit. This is special. We have not shown this one before. It never made it into a thumbnail, but this is right after he leaves. He comes across this Mr. Mammon person. Mr. Mammon essentially says, "You're a vagrant. Get out of here." I'm not going to give you anything. You don't look like you're capable of doing any work, essentially. But yeah, I employ all of those people that just beat you up. And he basically dismisses him. So that's Mr. Mammon. You get a special little piece of artwork here to check out. And then he gets taken prisoner in the land of the giant, the spirit of the age. Let's see. Reason shows up on her horse and saves him. These are some of the images that didn't make it. I mean, this is actually a combination of what the final image was, but this was the first one, first couple that it generated for Reason showing up and defeating the giant. That's another one. This is the one that ultimately made it into the thumbnail. But Reason shows up. She sets him free from all of this way of thinking that everything is matter. Everything can be broken down into the smallest pieces. I see that Tayo is joining us. Welcome, Tayo. Good to see you. Let's see here. Hello, mates. Hello, Tayo. All right, we'll continue. What else is Claude telling me? He reaches the Grand Canyon. So he gets set free by Reason, but he can't walk with her for very long. She does help him loose his chains of the way that he was thinking, but he didn't really like the idea that a landlord actually existed. But that's where she was leading him. So they part ways. He reconnects with Mr. Virtue. They find Mother Kirk, who offers a way across this gigantic Grand Canyon. She tells the story of how it got there in the first place. One of my favorite songs from the series, Crack in the World, shows up in that one. Another one of my favorite ones, actually, if we go back several, was the one with the brown girls. I really liked that song too. It's pretty cool, pretty haunting, and what's the word that I'm looking for? I can't think of the right word, but I like the way that song came out. Crack of the World is a good one. They decide to part ways. They think that she's crazy. Along their way, they run into Mr. Sensible. Mr. Sensible says, just live a very moderate life and just get yourself to death. That's eventually what's going to happen. But his whole life is relying on the servitude of Drudge. And Drudge, of course, is his servant. And I didn't have there's Drudge. They're just out of order. So Drudge is just like, the whole reason that he eats and everything that he does is because I come out here and just kind of scrape together what little soil there is. It's barely even fertile enough to grow turnips, but that's what I grow, and that's what we eat all the time. So Drudge decides to leave with John and Virtue. They start heading north. That's where they come across the hut of the Pale Men. Journey reveals. Mother Kirk offers. Yep. So they head north. They run into the Pale Men. I don't have any images of the Pale Men, actually, but John heads further north, trying to see if he can find a way across the canyon. And that's where he runs into Mr. Savage. Mr. Savage is singing a song of just like death. The best thing to do is just be violent towards everything in the world rather than being the victim of violence. And he's pulling this army of dwarves together to go destroy everything to the south before he gets destroyed by nature. Virtue leaves, but he's kind of freaked out. He loses his sight and his ability to speak. John loses him in the dark, but eventually finds him. They head south. They find Mr. Broad. Mr. Broad says, don't worry about trying to find meaning in any of this stuff. Just look at the beauty all around you, find common cause with every human on earth, and stop worrying about all these doctrines and everything like that. All that you have to find the infinite is just right here in nature. Now, again, what Lewis does tell us is that all of these characters that he runs into represents different philosophies that he actually tried on and adopted for a little while. So he did all of these things. Virtue's just sitting there listening. He can't see, he can't speak. John goes, they head to the house of Mr. Wisdom. John is offered, they're both offered rooms to stay in for the night. He dreams that night in dark contemplation. He meets Contemplation, or actually a shadow of Contemplation, who, let me see if I can find a letter where he kind of talks about this whole contemplative mood and meditation. It's not exactly the same thing as we see right here, but let's go back to Mr. Broad for a second and pull up one of his letters. I think, again, we get the best stuff in his letters to Arthur Greaves, because that's where he's absolutely most transparent. Doesn't seem like he's hiding anything. I spent the morning finishing a long letter on the philosophical subjects which I had carried out about with me. This is written in 1930, Friday, January 3rd, 1930. I was in the Bodleian library all morning, back after lunch, arriving there at 3 o'clock. Let's see what he gets into. Oh, here he is. In the afternoon, I had a most delicious walk. In that rarefied afternoon sunlight, which I've tried to describe so often, it's the peculiar glory of the English winter, apart from a period of meditation, mind emptying. Yeah, here we go. This is his meditation part. It is the peculiar glory of the English winter, apart from a period of meditation, mind emptying, which was fairly successful. I was on the whole as free from thought and fancies as I have been for a long time. 2 moments are worth preserving. The first, when I suddenly paused, as we do for no reason known to consciousness, and gazed down into a little ditch beneath a gray hedge, where there was a pleasant mixture of ivies and low plants and mosses, and thought of herbalists and their art. This is Mr. Broad. Mr. Broad even tells him, have you ever focused on botany before? Stop looking for your island. Don't listen. Mother Kirk, I love her, but she's kind of outdated. Find what you're looking for in botany. Have you thought of picking it up? So here's a letter where he's writing about this. A little ditch beneath a gray hedge where there was a pleasant mixture of ivies and low plants and mosses, and thought of herbalists and their art, and what a private retired wisdom it would be to go groping along such hedges and the eaves of woods for some herb of virtuous powers, insignificant to the ordinary observer, but well known to the trained eye, and having at the same time a stronger sense of the mysteries of living stuff than usual, especially the mysteries twining at our feet, where homeliness and magic embrace one another. Yeah, I really want to find what what Mr. Broad had to say, but I don't have the page to dig it up on. Let's see, what are y'all saying in the chat? The thumbnails, the collection of images has served wonderfully. I agree, Jer. I've had a really hard time just learning over the years. Traditional school was just not helpful for me. And I was talking to my wife about this in this project. It has really helped me to learn this book a lot better, to go through the process of working out these thumbnails and working out the songs and actually listening to the songs over again. I'll listen to the songs from this series like while I'm driving, either in preparation for what I was about to read or just like reflecting on what we had already read, and just having that immersion has really been helpful for me. Now, whether or not I could go and tell you if I'm doing a good job about telling you what this book is about, then perhaps my way of educating myself has succeeded. But if I'm not doing a good job, then perhaps I haven't succeeded at anything at all. But yeah, let me actually finish this letter. I think that was the part that I wanted to read. Wind in my face, flaming yellow. What else? Yeah, that was it. That was the part that I wanted to share that reminded me of Mr. Broad. So he gets frustrated with Mr. Broad because he's not telling him anything that's of interest to him. Ultimately, he still has the desire for the island, and he wants to know how to get there. So he heads south. They get into the realm of Mr. Wisdom. He's sleeping one night. He has the contemplation. Let me see if there's any other letter here that talks about this. Yeah, not there yet. That's the part about bread, which we'll get to in a moment. Sorry, stand by for just a second. You can, of course, look at this and maybe, I don't know if I have this song loaded, but I can play it for a second while I'm looking for this. Yeah, let's try this one. Yeah, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Hopefully you can still hear me. But yeah, he goes to sleep. In the middle of the night, this dark figure comes to him and says, "Come with me outside this window." They go walking, actually leap over a crevice, and it takes him it takes them both up to the top of a mountain where he can see the island far off in the distance. And she essentially tells him, this figure who claims that she's contemplation says, "Yeah, this is as far as you'll be able to go by night. But eventually you'll be able to jump and land on the island." And so I found another letter here where he's just talking about this idea of meditation, contemplation, mindfulness. He says to Arthur in this letter, he says, "Today has been a day of howling wind and low, fast driving clouds, but no rain. On my afternoon walk, my no thinking period was rather more successful than usual. I find as I go on that one becomes more conscious of one's thought by trying to stop. After shoving out the obvious loud thought, one listens to the whispered thought underneath. When one has checked that, I suppose there will be another layer underneath. Perhaps it is thought all the way down. Anyway, it is not a bad thing to get even this far, to step out of the thinking and listen to it going on. Perhaps it will teach you to control it better when you step back into the stream. Of course, the trouble of writing about it is that the words inevitably mean more than one intends. As these, for instance, sound as if I'd got far further than I really have, which wasn't the effect I wanted to produce. Oh, my hand is tired. I've been writing on and off for nearly a day." So it's not an exact analog to what we see going on right here, but just more of Lewis talking about the idea of mindful meditation and stepping out of his thoughts to examine thoughts as they come. Let's see, where do we go next? Let's pause that. Does it let me pause it? Yeah. Okay. On to the next image. Yeah, he goes and he sees the children of wisdom. We won't get too much into that. This is a new one. This is them sitting and listening to Mr. Wisdom. Not wax poetic, but he's essentially telling them, "Hey, you can still have your desire. And the thing that you're seeing is the best representation of what we are capable of seeing as humans. It is a real thing, but you can't get to it in your current form. Like you're seeing a real thing, but you're not seeing it for what it really is. You're seeing the best version that you're capable of seeing it. But what you need to do is you have to let go of any hope that you'll actually ever obtain it." And that's kind of where wisdom and all the wise men that he was encountering at this period in his life sit. It wasn't particularly following the Christian prescription for how life works. And then they leave Mr. Wisdom, and Virtue, he basically just gets broken by what Mr. Wisdom has to say, and he ultimately says, I have to leave you behind. I'm gonna have to renounce this world. I'm gonna basically have to do what they eventually run into Superbia, but what Superbia does, and just break away all of everything. I have to purify myself essentially, and I have to put myself through all kinds of physical renounce. I have to renounce physical pleasures and even friendship. Anything that is good is an illusion to what is most pure, and the only thing that's most pure is what lies on the other side of death. So I'm not going to bring about my death, but I'm essentially going to let go of all these things. And he says, "John, there's no way that you can come with me." And he starts kind of going crazy and throws a boulder over this ledge as they're walking down a cliffside into the canyon, and tries to get John to go away. And so John can't make it up there. Virtue, by just sheer power of will, eventually gets to the top of this thing, and then he continues along his path. And John is just kind of stuck there. But then after Virtue leaves, there's a man who shows up and reaches his hand down and helps pull John up the side. And yeah, here's some of the music that goes with this one. This kind of has a Breaking Benjamin feel to it. I did not put that in the prompt, by the way, but it's this. Yeah, it's just like throwing this boulder over the side at him. Jump ahead. that's that song. So he has this man that helps him up. And so, yeah, John's just kind of stuck. A man helps him up. He continues to travel along the path. He's, checking out the canyon where it's leading him. It's just so he comes off over to a section. It's just like super expansive. The Grand Canyon is still there. How in the world am I going to get across this? And then he finds a man that hands him some bread one night when he can't go any further. And this man, as Lewis tells us in his, where he kind of reveals what the allegory wasn't able to reveal well, this was kind of an encounter with Christ. And I think we've read a little bit about this in some of his letters last time, but let me do that. And while I go to find it, let me play the song that goes with this one. Yeah, here we go.
Sat in darkness on the stone. The cliff above, the void below. A man came walking night, held a loaf that burned like gold. The help is real. You cannot have it both ways. In the sight of the eye, I cannot.
Whoops.
You
I
cannot.
was just trying to turn down the volume a little bit. Yeah, he eventually tells John, you can't have it both ways. I know you were thinking of me as a metaphor, but if I can actually offer help, I am real. This is him coming to terms with this idea that he's been contemplating, and then he's been reaching out for help, which we did read about in one of our last ones. Let's see. So here he's reading Jacob Boehm in this letter that I'm about to pull from, another one that he wrote. Who did he write it to? Yeah, this one's to Arthur Greaves as well. He's talking about a book by Jacob Boehm called The Signature of All Things. Let me turn this down a little bit more. Actually, I'll just turn it off. And before I read this letter, let's see if y'all are telling me something in the chat. Y'all are talking about Peter Pan, Tinkerbell. Oh, well, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. I read it. Yeah, I've got a hard stop in about 25 minutes. So let me finish this up. Yeah, this is taking longer than I would think, but let me, you know what? Before we do anything else, let me see if I can grab your Substack, Mark, and we'll read through it. We'll take a diversion from read on C.S. Lewis and turn it into read on Mark in Tbilisi. How about that? Let's zoom that out. Oh, nope, that's not what I want to do. Let's pull this over here. Okay. And then I'm going to need to do one other thing. Okay, now I think we're cooking with gas. Here is Mark's Substack. Read on Mark Jackson is what we're turning this episode into temporarily. Now, I don't, as the kids say, I'm gonna make it PG. I don't mess with Substack, so I'm not sure where to go. What's it called? Which one is it? Is it the most recent one, Mark? Is it? This looks like that looks like a short post. Yeah, which one should I? May 19th. Thank you, Nidalate. Do these have dates on them? May 26th, May 19th. Is it this one, Wrestling with Enlightenment? Okay, perfect. All right. I can't read this in your voice, Mark, so I'm just going to read it in mine. Wrestling with Enlightenment. To sum up this wrestle, it's when the heart was subjugated to the head. This is a struggle we all go through. We're still struggling with it. It's probably the only thing Jonathan Pajot and I disagree about. He talks about passions in a negative sense. Let me take this down. He talks about passions in a negative sense. I disagree. Without emotions, we can't get out of bed in the morning. I'm still listening to this most ridiculous conversation between Paul Vanderklay and some other guy. And the other guy talks of reason and logic. This is Craig Biddle, of course. As if the universe works on reason and logic. Sigh. Okay, I have a confession. As an electronics engineer, when I hear the word logic, I think of Boolean algebra, i.e. binary logic, zeros and ones. Maybe I'm wrong on this, and it's not how other people hear this word, but it's definitely not how the universe works. As for reason, it always seems to be the most unreasonable people who use this word without seeing the irony. Whilst inspired by this ridiculous conversation, this post is intimately connected with a previous post. The intellectuals will save us. A quote from Thomas Sowell, there's usually only a limited amount of damage that can be done by dull or stupid people. For creating a truly monumental disaster, you need people with high IQs. Yeah, they won't. Sorry, Nathan, whatever your surname is. Sorry, Alex O'Connor. Sorry, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, John Lennon, not John Linux. Karl Marx, Plato, Aristotle, etc., etc. You're not helping. Our intellects appear unable to comprehend the finer nuances of reality. It's not just this conversation that is motivating me to write this thing. Jeff P. is going through all the C.S. Lewis books, reading them aloud in chronological order on his YouTube channel. At this point, Lewis is an atheist and is writing his own version of Pilgrim's Progress, originally published in 1678 by John Bunyan, which I enjoyed reading. Lewis called his book Pilgrim's Regress, which is telling in itself. Regress meaning something like to go backwards or revert to an earlier state of things. And clearly Lewis is influenced by John Bunyan. I don't know, but I had a strong impression that Lewis was very disturbed by World War I. And in this book, Pilgrim's Regress, he's exploring how it could have occurred, what went wrong. We had Enlightenment, Renaissance, Reformation, Protestantism, or whatever people prefer to call it. We had the smartest minds that have ever existed teaching us science and philosophy, evolution, the Industrial Revolution, engineering. Everything was heading in a wonderful direction. And then World War I. What the F? WTF. Millions dead. Why? Because Germany invaded Belgium and some English guy signed a piece of paper saying we would protect Belgium. So millions died over a piece of paper. Again, WTF. Oh, Mark, you're oversimplifying. Okay, maybe, but if anyone can give me a sensible answer, Mr. Sensible, as to why World War I occurred, I'd love to hear it. It most certainly wasn't about the death of Archduke Ferdinand, so come up with a better story. But I'm not exploring World War I here. I'm exploring the idea that the heart was subjugated by the head. And what does this mean? The problem intellectuals suffer from, well, one of, is that they don't understand motivation, which is an emotion. Let me explain both these words. Motivation, motive, motor, that which moves us. Emotion, motion, first mover, that which first moves us. Without emotions, we can't get out of bed in the morning, as I've said before. intellectuals think they can logically explain something, and this explanation will motivate people. It would be nice if I merely blushed when I hear some intellectuals talk, but my reaction is stronger, not because I think they are both stupid and idiotic, which they are, but because people actually take them seriously. Sorry, I've started ranting. I'm reminded of an Al Murray pub landlord joke. He's a comedian and talked about Scottish, because the Scots are very ish people. And he gave 4 examples of the ishness of the Scottish people. One of which was the Scotsman who spoke like his balls were being massaged by a warm, wet leather chamois. I don't know if I can play this without crashing my system, so I apologize, Mark, if this is key to the point that you're making. But it's not just the Niall Fergusons of this world. Sean Connery is a perfect example, as is Ian McGilchrist, an Englishman, university professors with high IQ who take on a certain accent to make them sound more intelligent, and thus we should take them more seriously. Never trust a man who sounds like he's having his balls massaged by a warm, wet leather chamois. I don't know if I'm pronouncing chamois correctly, so I apologize. Anyway, as an experiment, I'm going to chart the history of some famous artists, the ones that pop into my head over the last, say, 500 years, and in my own judgment, say whether they are emotional, intellectual, or beautiful, or a beautiful balance of both. Da Vinci, astonishing balance. Michelangelo, good balance, leaning towards intellectual. Rembrandt, balanced. Bach, astonishing balance. Mozart, massive ego, therefore more intellectual. Beethoven, as they say in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Beethoven, often a good balance, occasionally cold, intellectual. Brahms, more intellectual. Monet, intellectual. Klimt, wholly intellectual. Van Gogh or Van Gogh, most intellectual. Kandinsky, wholly intellectual. Picasso, wholly intellectual. Now, you may have your favorite artist and you may disagree with me on them, but you can't deny the trend. Our heads subjugated our hearts, and the result is ugly, literally, physically, musically, artistically, actually. Just look at modern architecture. Yeah, the brutalist style in particular is one that I think of as soon as you say that, Mark. So when I hear of all people, Jonathan Peugeot, whom I have enormous respect for, disrespecting passions, damn, it raises some questions. As I often say, head without heart is careless. Heart without head is stupidity. Both without body, nothing exists. Back to the trinity of heart, head, and body. We were given these tools to both understand the world and lift us up to God whilst keeping our feet on the ground to grow. This reminds me of Men Without Chests that Lewis talks about in The Abolition of Man, which we will get to eventually, perhaps years from now, but we'll get there, Lord willing. Heart was dismissed as useless at some point, and now we are slowly, painfully starting to understand this. But take heart. Whilst my writings may be difficult to digest, they are, at the very least, full of love. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I am glad that you pointed our attention to that. That was lovely. Let's see here. What else do I have time for? I've got about 15 minutes to go, so let me finish this off. What did you say down here? Daniel, you did not just badmouth McGilchrist. Daniel does not like badmouthing of McGilchrist. Love you too, Mark. Thank you. Okay, let me see if I can switch this back. I think I found the letter where he writes at least a little bit about this, or also his encounter with Reason on the mountain. But let me just read through this. The cliffside, I should say. So he's reading Jacob Boehm, The Signature of All Things, with other writings translated by John Ellistone, introduction by Clifford Bax, Every Man's Library. This is from a letter that he writes to his friend Arthur Greaves on June 5th of 1930. He says, I had two quite distinct experiences in reading this work by Boehm. Certain sentences moved and excited me, although I couldn't understand them, as the mysterious words in the crock of gold, which Angus told the philosopher. In the case that they may have the same effect on you, I quote two of them. One of them is that the nothing is become an eternal life and has found itself, which cannot be, in the stillness. And then the next quote: "The wrath extinguishes and the turning orb stands still, and instead of the turning, a sound is caused in the essence. At certain points, a feeling of distress and even horror," because he says he woke up from this encounter after being given some bread by this Christ figure and pointed to the water in the background, that he woke up in terror, right? When he looked over and he saw, basically the world was full of him from end to end, as it says in the lyrics of the song that I have for this. Let's see here. Yeah, this song. What else does he say here? At a certain point, he wakes up in terror because this presence is actually here where he didn't think it was there before, but now he can't deny it. At certain points, a feeling of distress, Lewis says here in his letter to Arthur Greaves, and even horror. I'd always assumed in my way that if I could reach the things Boehm is here talking about, I should like them. There's something really very dreadful in the second chapter of the Signatura. You'll think I'm putting this on just a little bit. Honestly, I am not. I intend to try and get hold of some good commentator on this book, if there is one, and worry out the meaning. In the meantime, I wish to record that it has been about the biggest shaking up that I've got from a book since I first read Phantastes by George MacDonald. It's not such a pleasant experience as Phantastes, and if it continues to give me the same feeling when I understand more, I shall give it up. No fooling about for me. And I keep one hand firmly gripped around the homely and simple things. So he's going back to talking about botany, right? The homely and simple things. That's what he's going to hang on to. Let's jump ahead to help us along with what he's talking about in this letter and what eventually happens to him. So he gets help. He wakes up that next day and he's in terror, and he's reading Jacob Boehm. He runs into Father History. Father History tells him a couple of things about pagans and how the landlord sends his messages into the world to pagans through imagery, and how he sent it through the shepherd people through the actual law, and they were told not to have any images. He contemplates it while it's raining. He can't continue. He spends the night in the cave with the hermit. I think I might have said merchant. I meant hermit, Father History. And when he's sleeping, he wakes up, and true contemplation, she's all full of light, shows up while he's dreaming and takes him across the canyon. She takes him across the canyon. He starts being taken to the island, and then he sees this place, this palace, right? This castle that he's being taken to. And he sees all of these other people headed there, and they've got all these weird smiles on their faces, or at least he sees them as terrible smiles, because he starts having flashbacks to the dark outline of the landlord's castle that his uncle was walking to. And he starts freaking out, and he's trying to let go of her hand, and he can't. And finally he wakes up. Well, when he wakes up, do we have an image of this? No, that's too far. When he wakes up, he tries to flee the canyon in the rain, and he comes across Reason. And Reason is the one who puts her blade at his throat, and she says, you either have to go down this canyon dead, or you need to continue on the path that you were on, because he tries to go backwards. He's trying to go back to the way he was thinking about things before, but Reason will not let him pass. You shall not pass. And so what does he say here? I keep one hand firmly gripped around the homely and simple things, but it is a real book, this Jonathan Boehm. It's not like a book at all, but like a thunderclap. And he even talks about, as he's fighting with Reason, oh my gosh, I want to find it now. As he's got Reason on the countryside. Well, I can't find the imagery, but he even describes that there are thunderclaps that keep making Reason appear and not letting him go back. And I think that's what this book is. That's what the story where he runs into Reason on the cliff is talking about here. Heaven defend us. What things there are knocking about in the world, Lewis says, to finish off that part of his letter to Arthur Greaves. Let's see. Do we have some more comments here? Gabe, welcome. Gabriel Stuckey is here. Late, better late than never. Yes, Mark, happy to read it. Thanks for pointing us to it. If he included, okay. What else are you saying here? Time for nerdy board game meet. I have to finish later. Have a great weekend, all. Thank you for stopping by, Daniel. Glad you were here. All right, let's stop the music. There we go. Yeah, I don't think I have all of the music loaded into StreamYard. I don't know why I decided to do this on StreamYard. I thought I was going to have enough time to try and bring you all on, but I've wasted all the time on my recap. So I'm sorry about that. Maybe I'll do another one a little bit later today if anybody wants to join. Let's see, what have I got? About 10 minutes left. Okay, let's keep going through the story. Let's see if I have any more letters that I want to cover here. So Reason tells him, nope, you got to keep going. He eventually comes down to the bottom of the canyon where he finds Mother Kirk. She points him and Virtue to a pool that they need to jump into, where he really has to just surrender and give up. So I called this thumbnail title, The Pool of Surrender. This is where all of the different philosophies and ideas that he tried on came and tried to discourage him from going to Mother Kirk and going into the Christian church. And they're telling him, here's why you'll be wrong. Media halfways and the lust that she eventually leads him to. She's like, you'll be done with me forever. Don't say goodbye to me forever. It's fine to say goodbye now, but if you do this, you'll leave me forever. You'll not want to engage with me, in just an open, seeking desire kind of way. He's got Mr. Enlightenment there. He's got Mr. Broad. All of these people telling him, yeah, you don't need to do it. His prisoner, Sigmund Freud, basically, the one who imprisoned him in the Giants country. You've got Mr. Sensible. You've got Gus, who's telling him, oh, you're just being an idiot. You've got one of the three pale men in the background here. And then that's Mr. Halfways, the father. They're all telling him, don't do it. Don't do it. He eventually dives in. He gets across. He's guided through the old country. He sees Mr. Wisdom's house for what it is. It's actually the plains or the footstep of hell, essentially. Because if you have no hope that you'll ever have that longing desire fulfilled, you'll just ultimately get stuck. I think there's a proverb somewhere that talks about, oh my gosh, I can't remember. In the book of Proverbs, it says something about hope deferred, or if hope doesn't exist, it kind of rots away at your soul. I don't have it memorized at all. So never mind if I'm getting that wrong. Where does he go from here? They run into Suburbia. No, wait, is that her name? Superbia, not Suburbia. Superbia, pride. The one that thinks that you can purify yourself. You can make yourself acceptable to the absolute, to God. That you can do it all your own, or in your own, by your own strength and your own power. And essentially what she does is she just completely carves away the need, as it says in the song, which I don't have loaded here, so I can't play it. But yeah, she's just become this, she's caught up in herself. She did it all on her own. She's not relying on anyone. She doesn't need anyone. She's not taking from anyone, but also she's not giving to anyone. Let's see what happens next in the story. He has an interaction with Lust, trying to tempt him again on the road home, but now he has surrendered to God. He's surrendered to Christ, and he asks for help. And we actually read through a letter whenever we did this episode, where when he started feeling these desires for lust, he really started to turn his attention to what he knew the true object of his desire was, God. The backside of the landlord's castle was where all of this desire was coming from. And so he started just contemplating, at least in the story, John began contemplating in song, how drinking from this is not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to help me. So let's see. Let's move on. He fights the dragon. This is kind of a scaled down version of what we eventually had for the thumbnail here. John goes to the north. Virtue goes to the south. They each fight the dragons there. Two things that occurred to me, or one thing that occurred to me in this fight with this dragon that he defeated. Remember, the dragon was singing a song when we come upon him in the story. And the song that he was singing was basically just talking about how he was so concerned with his own provisions, right? That's what the gold that the giant was guarding was represented. He was so concerned with self-reliance and being sustained through wealth, right? He was deathly afraid of poverty, so much so that he had to become a dragon. And dragons, of course, have gold. They have that, their faith lies in their wealth, essentially. Their strength lies in their wealth. And he had to destroy his bride to do it. His companion, he ate her, and that's what made him into a dragon. He was a snake, she was a snake. He ate her, he became a dragon. He has his gold now. He's never going to want for anything, except for now he's a prisoner to trying to protect that gold, protect other people from trying to steal it from him. So he never has a moment's rest. He doesn't have any companions. All he has is his gold. And I think it was it Jer or was it Daniel who pointed to this, that it reminded them of Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol. It's very interesting. And so the way that I made this connection with Lewis is, once Lewis defeated this dragon in his life, he no longer feared that he was going to be provided for, right? It was a big point of strife between him and his father, as he was trying to live in poverty with Mrs. Moore, spending whatever money he could after he paid for all of his, his books and everything related to his school while he was a student at Oxford. They were basically living in poverty, moving from house to house, he and Mrs. Moore and Maureen. And I think that the point that Lewis makes here is there's something that says he gets this cold breath around him, and it becomes kind of a barrier against both fear of poverty and also greed. So he's in this spot of contentment, knowing that the Lord is going to provide for him in all ways. So that's what I think the defeat of this dragon represents for Lewis. And then, of course, we've got the thumbnail from today's episode. This is Mr. Virtue, of course, defeating the Southern Dragon. The Southern Dragon casts his flames, or her flames, I can't remember if it was a male or female dragon, on Mr. Virtue. And instead of being consumed by that flame, he actually takes it on to turn all of his strongest self-sufficiency and trying to follow the law, and turns it into desire, and allows desire and essentially the desire for God to be what leads him. If you remember when John became Virtue's guide because Virtue went blind, it was because Virtue was simply following rules. That's all he was ever doing. I'm following the rules because I'm following the rules. I will because I will because I will. And what John tells him is, well, now that you can't see and you can't speak, I will be your guide. And I was never being led by just following rules. I was always pursuing my island. I was being led by desire. And so John goes and defeats this dragon of the far south, where desire, can warp into just simple sensuality and lust. And I think that's part of what this defeat is here as well. It's kind of a connection to him walking past Luxuria, lust, that was offering him that cup, but also taking the good that is actually in that desire, and taking it into yourself, and realizing that the object of all of that desire, even the strongest passions that you have in the body, are intended to be fulfilled in your full relationship, in your full at-one-ment, in your full connection with God. And so I love the image. This was like the first, some of these thumbnails I had to go through. Really, the songs were harder to get it to produce ones that were worthy of airing. There are a lot of cutting room floor songs, but every once in a while, I would have to tweak some of the thumbnails that would get produced by Robot Lady. And this was the first shot, and I looked at it and I just said, "Oh, that's perfect. We don't have to do anything else." Just love this image, the fieriness, the way that it got the puffs of smoke coming up, or steam coming up from his feet as he's walking through the bog. Just really love this image and the song that we did with it. Let's see, we've got a couple more images for you, and then I'll shut things down and we'll play that song again. This is where Mr. Virtue and John come across the cottage of his parents, who are now deceased at this point. He says, "I wish there was so much that I could say to them." And then we've got the guide there still leading them along. The story ends with them eventually walking across the brook themselves and heading to the landlord's castle. And then the angel starts singing a song towards the end. And so these are a couple of the images that never made it into our prior episodes. For sticking around this long, you get the treats of these last images. And essentially that's it. I really kind of strayed away from reading through what Claude was telling us to cover. But that's kind of all that I have for today. So let me switch back. I'll just say goodbye to Robot Lady right now and stick myself back up here on the screen. Let's see what we've got. Yeah, there we go. So let me run through the chats here. Daniel had to take off. Following the rules, subjugating, yes, the heart to the head. That's right, Mark. I agree with you completely. Great collaboration with Robot Lady. Yes, Robot Lady is the artist of all of these thumbnails. One of Robot Lady's cousins is, or I should say one of Robot Lady's people is the one who helps do all the songs. And then Nidalate in Brothers and Friends, Warney writes on April the 13th, the rest of the day I spent correcting the proof of copy. Oh, interesting, of Pilgrim's Regress. Okay, awesome. And on June 2nd, we are all eagerly awaiting the reviews of Jack's book, which was published last week. Fascinating. Thank you for your service. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's all that we've got. That's the recap. That's kind of the best that I could do. Hopefully that was good enough. That's all you get. You get what you pay for. Let's see. Is there anything else that I wanted to say? Yeah, my plan is to just move forward with the project the way that we've been going. Sticking my hand up here to make my camera stop being so blurry. So yeah, we're just going to pick back up in this book right here that led us into the Pilgrim's Regress, and it's the collected letters of C.S. Lewis. So pick up your copy. I've been reading through this and offering commentary. I'm hoping that it's all fair use, everything that I've been doing here. I haven't gotten any cease and desists or copyright strikes yet. So what I would like to do to try to encourage the C.S. Lewis Foundation not to do anything like that to this channel is please buy your copy of all the books and everything that I'm reading through that I'm getting my hands on so that you can follow along with us. Let's see. Yeah, I plan to continue. Thank you for that, Mark. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I find it to be very helpful. But hopefully it's helpful in ways that none of us are even aware of. And who knows what it could do or what it could turn into. But this is where we've got. We are, I will point this out, 10 episodes away from a monumental milestone, which would be the 400th episode of this project. That was fascinating. I was just discussing that with my wife the other night. She's like, wow, you've really done that many. Yeah, really done that many. Okay, well, thank you so much to Jared, Nidalate, Mark, Seeking Genuine, Daniel for joining today, Gabriel for stopping by, Tayo. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody. I'm just going through the list here of everybody who contributed in the chat and everyone else who poked their head in to the live stream or is checking this out on the replay. Thank you all so much for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They're always wanted, welcome, and appreciated. To you and to everyone else within the sound of my voice. Until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, everyone, take care.